Okay, welcome to the Concern Podcast, where we unpacked political, socio-economic, and cultural stories shaping our world. I'm Emmanuel Taban, and today we are diving in on one of the most talked about political figures, not only on the African continent, but extending to some parts of the world, and that is none other than Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso. And we'll be talking about also the revolutionary wave that is sweeping through the Sahel region. And to help me unpack this, I'm honored to be joined by someone who is going to bring insight into this conversation, and that is none other than my friend and colleague, Mr. Kwame Offei. And Kwame Offei is a seasoned journalist. He started his journalism career at university, where he became a student presenter. And later on, he went on to host in so many other radio stations in Ghana. And the most recent one is being a political morning show host and presenter at Spice FM in Ghana. And we are going to be discussing this issue. And Mr. Kwame, I'm so much pleased to have you on this. So welcome to the Concern Podcast.
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me too.
Cool. It's exciting. I believe that you're done with your classes and your holidays, right?
Yeah, I'm done with winter.
Right.
Yes, but I feel I don't have so much activities to do for summer,
right.
And I don't have much plans for the summer. So instead of wasting time, I've picked about 3 courses to do. So now my hands are tight.
Cool.
There are a lot more to do.
Got it.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, Kwame is also a student at the Yukon University right now. And just to get into our conversation for tonight, I'm just gonna start asking our questions for this conversation. And as I said, that our questions are going to be centered on the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, and also why the West seems to be unsettled and uncomfortable with his leadership. So, Mr. Kwame, in recent times we have had so many stories regarding Ibrahim Traoré. There are so many stories coming out from Burkina Faso and entire Africa about his leadership. Why do you think his name is becoming so popular than any other African leader, and why Burkina Faso as well is becoming much popular than any other African country? And what does this tell us about leadership?
I think that you become more popular when your people accept you. And what that means is, in many African countries, we've been divided into opposition and then a party in power. Right. So many a times the country is divided. And it's very difficult to have a whole nation supporting a particular president.
Right.
Anytime you see that, then for me, I think it's becoming undemocratic. Right. Because in a pure democracy, like it's been structured such a way that there will be the right wing and there will be the left wing. And at any point in time, there will be a consensus, but you can't get 100% of a total support, right?
Right.
So it looks like from the ordinary citizen of Burkina Faso, it seems many of them are quite happy with what is going on. And even if you are opposing, I think that at this point you become odd.
Right.
Because, basically politics is for the welfare of the people and for you to make our lives better. That's right. What we are interested in.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, if our lives is better, if we are struggling with poverty and then now we see a future, even though it might not be manifesting now, but then we can zoom, and then through the things you're doing, we can see that the country will have a future. Then it puts smiles on the people's faces. Again, it's not easy for an African president to stand up and then face the West in that manner.
Right.
And it looks like many a times, many of our leaders are quite scared to face them. One, due to historical references, or historical incidents which happened when some leaders took such trajectory. So it becomes a bit difficult for them, even if they have the passion or they are Pan-Africanists. Some of them would want to tread cautiously, you know. Yeah, but then if you're white, you have to be white. And then if you're blue, you have to be blue. You can't be blue and white, right?
Right.
I'm quite very sure that Ibrahim is becoming popular because he has identified himself to be white, which a lot of people probably maybe did not expect. But then whoever you want to associate yourself with, you get that kind of feedback when the person sees your level of loyalty. That is where he also rewards your loyalty. Right. So I think that he's really standing up and then have made a decision that this is where I want the future of the country to be. And these are the people I want to affiliate myself with.
Right.
So I think that's what's actually making it quite popular. Many people still have the tragic incidents of Gaddafi in their minds. And I think that if people had their own way, they would have retaliated. And so you realize that Ibrahim Traoré's direction feels some kind of retaliation for a lot of people. Because when people have things in their heart, but then nobody is coming forward to really manifest that, and then somebody comes and then begins to manifest such a trait, then naturally he wins the admiration of a lot of people.
That's absolutely correct. And one more thing, you talked about Ibrahim maybe like facing the West. And one thing, of course, we know that history has taught us that African leaders who have actually stood up against the West, that history hasn't ended up in a very good way. You given us an example of Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. But just Ibrahim Traoré, a 35-year-old young boy who probably has no experience in politics, that's what I would say, and he got his way into power through a coup d'etat. Why do you think that he's getting all this confidence from? Like, where do you think this young boy, that so many people refer to him as a young boy, where do you think he gets all this confidence from? Is Ibrahim Traoré probably having a backup from somewhere, maybe not an African country, but other maybe Eastern countries? I mean, countries like maybe in the East, like Russia. Do you think maybe his alignment with Russia is giving him all this confidence that he can come out and speak against France and America in broad daylight?
Well, first of all, we cannot assume that he is young and so he doesn't know what is going on.
Right.
And then let us also appreciate the fact that he attended Ouagadougou University.
Right.
So at least he has that level of knowledge to analyze situations in the past. Or probably he had taken historical courses.
Right.
And so he knows what has happened in time past. And then he knows what would be good for Africa. So finding himself as a soldier and through the experience during combat, what he saw, the struggle of Burkina Faso in acquiring or accessing ammunitions towards the fight against terrorists.
Right.
And then some of the hindrances or some of the challenges they face with regards to the type of weapons they could even acquire, because Franks will not sell everything to you. So as a soldier, when he is on the field, he sees some of the challenges where you have your colleague soldiers willing to fight, but then you don't have the resources. Then you realize that what could be the challenge? Maybe you see resources all around you, gold and the likes. You don't struggle with resources, but they are telling you, you can't buy this ammunition, you can't do this, you can, and then you realize that this is not something natural. This is an artificial hindrance. That's kind of making it difficult for the fight to be won.
Right.
So don't also forget that at a point in time where Gaddafi and the likes came to Ghana, I'm not sure if he passed through Burkina Faso, but he had a green book,
right,
where he outlined some of the things Africa needed. And I've heard somewhere that Troarè was part of those who were kind of selling the books. So I quite believe that you can't come all of a sudden from a vacuum and then began to share sentiments like a Pan-Africanist. No, it's a growth process. You would have to read history, you would have to understand history, and you, to be able to even know who to affiliate yourself with, right? So I would take it like he's a student who has, if not going to school for history, he has read, and then he understands the dynamics of African politics and then African relation with the Western world. So every decision he's making is more thoughtful. It looks like people feel he's a small boy, but he seems to be making the decision even our forefathers didn't make.
Right.
So it should tell you a lot, you know.
That's correct. That's correct. And one more thing, you probably know how Ibrahim Traoré gotten himself into power. You know, he like there are a lot of coup d'etats that are happening in the whole of Western Africa, in Niger, in Mali, and all other West African countries. And that is also a way where Ibrahim Traoré got himself into power. Do you think that is the best way, like, of just getting, because like for me, it looks like elections really doesn't bring us the right people into power. And do you think the way Ibrahim Traoré got himself into power and with all his leadership style that seems to be resonating with so many Burkinabès, do you think that's the best way of leaders getting into power? Or we need to stick into the Western democracy where people have to go through elections and it doesn't matter if the elections bring the right people or no? Do you think that's the right way?
I won't say right way, I won't say wrong way. I mean, sometimes the moment determines what has to come.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't negotiate with a terrorist.
That's exactly his words.
You don't negotiate with a terrorist, right?
Right.
So you do what you must do at a point in history. I mean, for example, Ghana before 2000, in a fourth republic, Jerry John Rawlings was the president, and he had come to power through coup before he decided to transition, and then later gave it to John Adjei Kufuor in after a democratic election. Right. So in the 80s, there have been several coups. Rawlings makes a coup, gives it to Hilal Imam to handle, because he was a military man. He thought that, okay, this civilian can help. So I've did a coup. I don't think that the country is doing well. I think there are a lot of corruption that he hands this over to Hilal Imam. And at a point in time, just in less than a year, he comes back and take the power because he still feels that things are not going on well, right? So you will not say, or we will not say, okay, was Rawlings right? Or at that point in time, it would be difficult for him to just, you know, in democracies in Africa, no matter how you shout, no matter how you make noise, whatever they want to do, they're going to do, right? Ruto has faced massive demonstration in Kenya. Sincerely, if you are being real, if I was Ruto, I'll say that, oh, it's fine. You know, I've decided that you chose me. Right. And at this point in time, if you say you don't want me, and to a point that you can rush into a presidential palace, demonstrating, then it means that you can come to parliament and the likes, demonstrating, it means that you guys really don't want me. Right. And at this point in time, regardless of what, I don't even have to wait for election. Right. Yeah, but then you see the politician will not decide to resign because the seat he sits on, there are a lot of investment. Before they won the elections, there are a lot of strange attacks. There are a lot of investors who have invested in campaign. There are a lot of people who are waiting in the queue to gain whatever they invested in the process. So you don't wake up and then do a demonstration and think that a particular president is going to resign while he has a lot of contracts with sponsors who have fueled the election for him to come to power. It won't happen. You understand? So the democracy as we see it on the surface, I always say that when we say democracy, sometimes we make it look like, oh, this is the best system of government because this is where the people participate in the electoral process. But then I don't think it's just participating in the electoral process. If you are just voting during election day, and then government is introducing a policy and you can go on demonstration, but yet government goes on to introduce a policy based on the fact that majority are voted in parliament. and then we are told that these majority who voted in parliament are MPs representing you in your various constituencies, so they speak for you. Right. So in another way, they are representing you. So if their political party even want them to go in a direction which might not necessarily sync well with the people, they don't care.
Right.
They will go in that direction. Right. So at that point in time, in terms of taking decision at parliament, there can be an autocracy in a democracy.
Exactly.
You get that?
Got it.
See, we're saying democracy, but then what you're doing at parliament or the decision you're taking up, but it's not necessarily the will of the people. Right? So it's a bit tricky. You know, we say it's democracy, but sometimes it is not for the people when it comes to many of the decisions, because a lot of decisions have been taken in Africa where the people clearly make it known that they don't like it. But yet politicians find it difficult because their hands are tied, right? Yeah, as I told you, how elections or how political parties fund their election is something that we have to look into. Right. If you don't know somebody's source of funding, even if you decide to kill him, he will not. Right. Because the sacrifices are too much for them to lose power. So power is like power is like a cocaine for them. Right. It's a do or die. Right. Because a lot of money have gone into it. So for us as Africans, my pain is through history, it looks like we've not been given the chance to define a way of governance that best works for us.
Exactly.
A governance is a good governance when the people are satisfied with what is going on, right? So at the end of the day, if you say democracy is the best and it works elsewhere in the world, and you go elsewhere and you go to Africa, and then regardless of the democracy, the people are still struggling. I mean, I come from Ghana. We're practicing democracy, but the level of poverty, unemployment, a lot of issue. You understand? Right. So if you when you even say that, oh, Ghana is the gateway to Africa, and you come through Ghana, and then you look at from where, we transition into democracy, let's say from 2000 up till this time, and then you look at our nature of development, you look at poverty indicators, you look at challenges in the medical sector, like you still want to go across Africa and then question how well democracies are doing in Africa.
Exactly.
And when you practice something for some time, you would need to review and rethink as to whether this is working for the people, or we would have to find a way and then contextualize it in a manner that it works for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I won't say democracy is good, democracy is bad. We need a practice that best works for us. Right. And if over time democracy hasn't given us that result, we would still have to seek for what works for our interest. Right. That's it. Cool. Because so I'm gonna give it up. Because basically it's a world of interest. Right. If France wants to associate with you, it wouldn't be because you have water, and then they want to come and drink the water. And why don't they don't have water in France? They have it. They do. If US want to associate with you, they won't come and say, oh yeah, because you have soil or you have human beings on your land, we feel that we want to associate with you. No, they associate with you, and it's transactionally. You understand? So it's okay for people to choose partners they believe can help them to reach their goals. We don't have to place embargo on what people decide to choose, because I don't think that God has created us for any human being to take care of ourselves. God even told us that we have a free will, right? That is why I don't know the memory verse, but allow all the plants to grow together. Exactly. And then when it's harvest time, we're going to do what we have to do. Right. So allow people to choose their path. Exactly. When they feel it's a learning process, they will come back and then find the best way of governing themselves.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting insight from Kwame. And maybe one more thing. You know, when Ibrahim came in power, what he did was that he expelled the French military and all those mining companies that were operating in Burkina Faso. And I feel like right now, the West is kind of upset with Ibrahim, especially France, and there are a lot of accusations that are coming out right now, especially from the US, and they're saying that Traoré is using the resources of Burkina Faso just to consolidate himself in power, and he's being corrupt. And of recent, we heard of a lot of protests against him, people coming out to call against his leadership, that he's not doing the right thing. And why do you think the West is really upset with this guy? Why does it seem this kind of uncomfortability, like the West is upset? Why?
Using his resources to protect himself. Some countries use for some countries, military power is everything to them. Exactly. So when you pick their budget and you analyze it, you realize that chunk of their budget goes into military. Right. Why wouldn't people question that, oh, this so and so country, chunk of about 40 plus of your budget is going into the military. Yet you have people on the street who are drug addicts, who are struggling. Why wouldn't you invest so much into the social service or social sector to correct that anomaly? A lot of streetism, rape cases, even hunger, poverty, drug abuse, and then all that. But then you decide to push chunk of your budget into military. Just because you believe that strong military is sovereignty. Right. So before you can probably rule the world and have control over the world, you need a stronger military might. In this case, that is your priority, right? Exactly. Because in developmental processes, or when you're developing as a country, we all have stages of development, and what is our priority? Right. Africa might not need any strong military. Africa wants food to eat, good schools. Probably on your scale of preference, you've been able to achieve all this good education, access to food, and then all that. So on your scale of preference, that is not a priority, right? Right. So I don't know which country would have to decide how a sovereign country uses its resources. I don't think that we've made any country a watchman on other countries in the ways they are supposed to use their resources. We can say that, okay, why is it that in some country there's so much gun violence? Why wouldn't you invest so much resources or change your policy on access to guns and the likes? Why won't African tell you that, okay, why don't we do that? Would you even listen to Africa? You will not. So as soon as you have that mentality that I can sit in my country and tell you, hey, do this, then there is some superiority complex in your mind where you feel that when it comes to ideas, probably you're better off than you get that. So when you take that, when you look at it critically, I mean, countries are sovereign, and countries will have to be allowed to take their own decision. When the people don't like it, the people should revolt, go on the street. If you love the people, for a very long time, they've been battling with terrorism. So if you had anything good in mind, you should have stepped in and then cleared these terrorists long ago. The people shouldn't have been crying about that level of insurgency, instability, and then all that, right? You had the gold. You were mining the gold peacefully. The people were still struggling with terrorism. We couldn't use some of the gold revenue to invest so much in their military, to build a stronger military that was going to deal with terrorism within their space. They, through democracy, have experienced terrorism, and it's a headache for them. Now, if they find themselves with military and then they are fighting terrorism, you think they would want democracy? They will say that no, military stay on, because since you came, you fighting terrorism for us. We like it like that. Exciting.
That's really exciting. And you know, what I've also seen is that recently Ibrahim Traoré he had a visit to Russia, and as I said before, that it really seems to be so close to Vladimir Putin right now. And I don't know if you have noticed that, but maybe the next question is, don't you think that Ibrahim Traoré's alignment to Russia is just a kind of shift from one maybe colonial master to another? What do you think Ibrahim and Vladimir Putin, or Burkina Faso and Russia, has in common? Do you think the Russians actually, they have something in common with Burkina Faso Africans?
Okay, so I mean, history is facts. History is basically something we can make reference to. at the Berlin conference where Africa was petitioned,
Right.
we know the countries that petitioned Africa for themselves and saw that these were places that were theirs. You can go here, you can go here, you can go here. The truth of the matter is we didn't see Russia in there. I'm quite surprised if they were not interested when Africa was being shared during the Berlin conference, right? And then again, two, I am struggling to see which country Russia consciously made an effort in time past to colonize and then take their resources. I've read a lot of African books. I haven't seen that.
Right.
So even if it has a bad intention, historically, we cannot, per our social context, relate colonialism with them.
Right.
So no matter how wicked they are, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt that, well, Africa was rich in resources. If you did not come for us, then it means that probably you were self-sufficient. You didn't need that. Or morally, you felt that that was wrong. And so you didn't make such a move.
Right.
Yeah, and we have also seen on the other side of history what every country stands for and what every country fight for, right?
Right.
So I believe that if you go to someone to protect you and you have the chance to properly negotiate in terms of, it's just transaction.
Right.
So if you have a chance to negotiate in terms of what you want to give them and then the service they can provide you, and then you feel that economically there is equilibrium, there is satisfaction.
Right.
One is not imposing himself on you. It makes sense within your the point of your development.
Right.
Then it makes sense as a sovereign country to make that decision. Right. Because you have historically countries you come into contact with and what they've done to you. So if you know your history well, probably you wouldn't want to go back.
Right.
If you were so nice and you were the best, I'm sure that people will run to you. People wouldn't want to run away from what is so good. Who runs away from honey? Which bee runs away from honey? No. Bees run after honey.
Right.
No matter where it is, they will smell it. So if somebody is running away from you, you would have to also do a self-introspection to kind of analyze very well that why are people we've been in, let's say we've been in bed with for a very long time. You've been with your wife since the 60s. Right. And you guys have been making babies. You guys have been enjoying yourself very well. You guys have been visiting each family house, one also coming to the other family. And all of a sudden, one partner says that I am tired. I'm leaving the marriage. And you just think that she's mad or the man is mad. Is that how it works? Of course, there might be reasons. If you think you love your wife, you'll find a way to talk to her. If she wants you to change with regards to some attitude you have, you would have to listen to her and change so that you can keep the relationship. Right. But then if you feel like, yo, you're my wife, I married you with gold and whatever, you can't go. You can't go. Yeah. Who does that? Another man will be elsewhere knocking her nicely. Another man will be treating her and then be enjoying her nicely. Right. And you'll be in the house, hey, you can't go. Yeah. I spent on you. How can you go at my wife? We started back in the 60s. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Your wife wants her peace of mind, and at that point in time, she feels you are not giving her that peace of mind, or you are not giving her that room to operate as a person. Probably she feels you don't even respect her.
Exactly.
So until you change to a point where she will feel like, okay, I'm now okay with you. Forget about it. Even if you force her to stay, she will still be going around other men.
Yeah, what I've picked from you here is that, in any kind of like bilateral relationship between countries, like it should actually result into a win-win kind of results. It shouldn't only benefit one country. And yeah, I feel like maybe why Traoré is sticking with Russia is because maybe Russia is doing exactly what aligns to what they want. Maybe, yeah. Good one. And then next one is, we have seen of recent when the US came out and spoke against Ibrahim Traoré about his leadership and how he's trying to consolidate himself in power, and that it feels like so many Africans around the globe and in Africa as well, they stood up in solidarity with Ibrahim Traoré. We've seen that in Ghana, in Sierra Leone, where the young people came out and went on the street showing solidarity with Ibrahim Traoré. We have seen that in the Caribbean and also in the diaspora. Other Africans stood up and they went on the streets trying to show solidarity with Ibrahim Traoré. Why do you think, like, does it mean like there is a kind of Pan-Africanism coming up again? And do you see Ibrahim Traoré as a reincarnation of Thomas Sankara? Because there's so many things that really people have spoken about Ibrahim Traoré that seems to be the same things that Thomas Sankara stood for. You know, when you recall the history of Burkina Faso, when Thomas Sankara came, he came as well as a very young person, and then his leadership, because he stood for what is right for the Burkinabè people, so many people praised him at that time. Do you see that as a reincarnation or as a replica of Thomas Sankara? And in kind of showing solidarity, do you think African can only do that? What other ways can they do, like, in order to show support for their fellow African leaders or fellow African countries that are really doing great or showing example?
Okay, so in one breath of the question, I think that he had shown enough trait of Sankara, and then he is building on it.
Right.
I think that when we give him time, probably he can even do better than Sankara.
Right.
Because now there is improved security, improved information, access to a lot compared to when Sankara existed.
Right.
And then I am sure that he has also gone to a point, you know, the people around you equally matters, because a very close friend of Sankara betrayed him.
Exactly.
Yeah, and at this point in time, when you realize that the country is rallying behind you to a point that people are ready to stay on the street for you, then it means a lot. So the point is about the people in the close circles of Troarè. It's quite important, because whoever is going to betray you wouldn't come from anywhere.
Exactly.
It is just going to come among those who are that close to you, and then they know what you do. Whoever fetches water for you, whoever brings that food to you, and all that, these are people capable of killing you, not any other person. So when those closer to him do not allow themselves, I believe that he will be successful. Mm-hmm. All the praises can come, but if those closer to him decide at a point in time, somebody sees money he hasn't seen before and decides to betray him, right, then that's going to be a big challenge. Right. So it's very important for him to take a closer look of the people closer to him. And if they need to reshuffle them from time to time or whatever, it is very important for him to do that. Not also over trusting people and then all that, and then being careful and then appreciating that each and every day he is a target. Exactly. And he would have to position himself well, right, in everything he's doing. Right. Yeah, and then for other African countries showing solidarity, you realize that it is not African head of states, exactly, or ECOWAS heads of states.
That's the next question I was going to ask.
Who are showing solidarity. It is just the people, exactly, in sub-Saharan Africa or West African countries, the citizens, that are rather showing solidarity to Ibrahim Traoré. So it has to be quite clear to him that the leadership are not with him. Because I said, if you want to be white, be white. If you want to be black, be black. If you are in support of what he's doing, for example, Buhari, if you are in support with Troarè, oh God, if Buhari is in support with him or in support of him, it has to be made clear. It doesn't have to be any curve or no. Right. If Ruto is in support, he has to make it clear. Right. Right. So I think that it is just the citizens within the country who don't even like those presidents within the country, who are showing love for Ibrahim Traoré. And I believe this should be a wake-up call for all African presidents. I'm very sure that going forward, a lot is going to change in African politics. Exactly. Because these politicians, at time to come, trust me, they will become so unpopular. they will become so that the people won't like you.
Right.
You can't force things on the people as you've been doing before.
Right.
And what all of us will have to appreciate is when Troarè succeeds with his modality, then this is going to really spark a lot of debate within the sub-region.
Exactly.
And people will now begin to question the system they operate in. So two things. It's either we don't allow him to succeed for others to take cue from it, or he succeeds for others to get that motivation to equally spark similar revolution.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one. And you know, like I've seen this in so many African countries. There are so many leaders who came up like trying to show themselves as Pan-Africanists. You know, people like when William Arap Ruto came in power of Kenya, in his first year or 9 months, like the guy really stood firm, and so many people were proud of him, so many Africans, because he was the kind of guy who was advocating for a lot of changes, including Africa into the UN Security Council and some kind of reformation that needs to be done within the United Nations. But later on, he showed up to be a different person, disliked by his people. And right now, really, among all the African leaders, there's no one that has stood up and actually talk against the pressure that is coming out from the West against Ibrahim Traoré. No one at all. No, a few that I've seen is the president of Botswana. He kind of spoke a little about Ibrahim Traoré, trying to show his support, and also in some parliaments, some members of parliament stood up against that. But there's no any single African leader who stood up and maybe spoke against
they are scared.
The West. I don't know if
they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose their deals.
They don't want to.
It is money. It's political investment. Until you till you're able to get back your investment, you shut up. And
also I've seen that like the name Traoré has really like gotten roots in so many African countries.
Yeah.
I remember the day he went into the inauguration of President of Ghana. Mm-hmm. I think that's the only country where he went for the inauguration. He went to Ghana, and then when people saw him, like when he went and greeted the president, there was a lot of support like that came out. And even recently, during the inauguration in Gabon, he didn't go there, but he just sent a representative. But when they called his representative to stand up and just wave, a lot of crowds stood up and gave support. And I feel like the name Ibrahim Traoré is really becoming something different. Do you think his leadership in Burkina Faso is going to shape or it's going to bring in a kind of a new leadership into most African countries? Is it going to maybe change the dynamics, political dynamics in Africa? People would use him like as a reference where they'll say, we want a leader who acts like Traoré. Do you think it's going to create that change?
Okay, so his leadership can create a change based on how it impacts on the lives of the people over time.
Right.
So people want to see good life, people want to see affordable education, people want to access quality health care at a reasonable price. People want to basically access to food, water, and the likes. So if over time he's able to justify that these things are possible, these things can be done, we don't have to wait for the next 30 years to get some of these things done. That is the point where other African countries are going to take a cue from it. I mean, at this point in time, it's a lot of social media noise.
Right.
It's fine. It's okay. It shows solidarity to let the world appreciate that he's popular. It's not that he's unpopular in his country. The second or the next level of it is for him to consciously develop and empower the people to a point that we within the West African sub-region will know that the people of Burkina Faso are better off than us.
Right.
When we realize that they are better off than us, that is where pressure is going to come on other governments.
Right.
So, I mean, it is going to happen, but it's going to happen on the basis of development, improvement in the standard of living of the people, and then the quality of life of the people. And that is what's going to spark the change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Kwame Offei, for joining us into this conversation. And any last words that you'd like to tell maybe Africans around and just like in Africa and those living abroad, like what message do you have for them?
Yeah, I think the message should be we need to be strong, we need to be tough, we need to be clearer in our minds in terms of our decisions and what we want.
Right.
We need to be ready to fight till our last drop.
Right.
And then we should be able to be bold to speak with our leaders when there are things we don't want. It's not a matter of being in the middle. Oh, that's where you have a friend and then the friend is a friend to your enemy. And then he tells you, oh, as for me, I'm in the middle.
Right.
You can't be in the middle.
There's no middle ground.
You have to decide where you belong and then fight for it. So this is no violence. We should choose the right path because history will definitely remember us for all that is happening around us. Even if all other African countries want to be the way they are, and we will have these three countries developing to a world-class countries, it will be a lot of reason for us to make justifications for the others to wake up.
Right.
So we might not have all African countries getting liberated, but in this case study, let's make sure that these three are able to significantly transform.
Right.
Because if Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are able to transform, if they are really able to transform, now they will make a statement for modern coup.
Right.
Like not all coup are bloody. Coup can transform the lives of people.
Exactly.
And coup can equally make people speak
Right.
without being afraid. Like there can be a democratic coup.
Right.
So like it's a challenge for these youngsters to redefine coup in a different direction by what they are going to do. And when they do it well, probably we can have a different name for coup d'etat.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Exciting one. Thanks a lot, Mr. Kwame Offei, for your insight into this conversation. And for all our viewers there, thanks a lot for watching this. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for supporting the Constant Podcast. And see you next time in our next video.